Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into what might be one of the most exciting updates to Obsidian in a very long time, the brand new core plugin, Basis. You know, if you've ever wanted the raw power of a database right inside your vault, but kind of dreaded the complexity that usually comes with it, then you are in exactly the right place. Let's get to it.
Look, we've all been there, right? Your vault starts out so nice and clean, but then you add hundreds, maybe even thousands of notes, and suddenly finding things and seeing how they connect feels, well, overwhelming. It's that classic knowledge management problem. How do you bring some real structure to all that chaos without giving up the freedom of just writing in plain text?
And that, my friends, is where Basis comes in. But the very first thing we have to get straight is this. It is not a database, at least not in the way you're probably thinking. It doesn't lock your data away in some new proprietary format. A much better way to think about it is like a powerful set of glasses you can put on to look at all your existing notes in a completely new, incredibly organized way.
Now, to really understand what makes Basis so different, and frankly, so perfectly Obsidian, we need to talk about its core philosophy. It's an approach that basically flips the entire traditional database model right on its head. Okay, this comparison right here is the absolute key to understanding Basis. Think about tools like Notion. They use what we can call a build-up approach. You start with a totally empty table, and then you have to add things to it one by one. Basis does the exact opposite. It starts by looking at everything, every single note in your vault, and your job is simply to apply filters to narrow that giant view down to what you want to see. This is huge because it means your individual notes always remain the single source of truth, not some separate database.
So, let's just break that down real quick. Step 1, you make a new base, and it immediately pulls in everything, the whole shebang. Step 2, you use this super simple graphical interface, no code, to say something like, hey, show me only the notes inside my projects folder that also have the tag active. And then step 3, bam, the base instantly shows you just those notes in a nice, clean table.
And this quote just nails it. It perfectly shows how Basis honors Obsidian's core file-over-app principle. The base itself? It's just a configuration file, a simple set of instructions. Your actual data, all your precious notes, they stay right where they are as portable, plain text markdown files that you will always own and control. The base is just a temporary view, a lens, not a new box to put your stuff in.
Okay, so that's all the theory. But what can you actually do with this thing? This is where it gets really fun. Let's walk through a super practical example and see how this can build an incredibly powerful workflow.
All right, we are going to build a read it later inbox. You know, just like Pocket or Instapaper, but with a huge difference. It's going to be completely local, totally private, and it will live right inside your own vault. Honestly, this is a total game changer.
Okay, so picture this. You're browsing the web. You find an amazing article you want to read later. You hit your Obsidian Web Clipper extension, which you've already set up to automatically add these two properties, a status of unread and read set to false, right into the metadata of that new note.
The second that note saves to your vault, it just appears in your inbox base inside Obsidian. How? Well, because you've already created a base with one simple filter. Only show me notes where the status property is unread. It's totally automatic, zero friction.
And now for the magic. Once you've read that article, you don't have to hunt down the file or mess with tags. Nope. Right there, inside the base view, you just click the little checkbox next to the read property. And this isn't just changing the view. That action instantly writes the change back to the original Markdown file's metadata. And because that note's property is now updated, it no longer matches your inbox's filter. So, poof, it instantly disappears from your inbox view. You've just processed and archived an item with a single click without ever leaving your dashboard. It is such a seamless and, let's be honest, satisfying little loop. And look, that inbox workflow is just scratching the surface. Just imagine using these same ideas to build a dynamic dashboard for all your active projects, or a master bibliography for your research that just updates itself. Or what about dynamic reading lists for books and movies? You can even create these beautiful visual galleries of your ideas using the card view. The possibilities here are really, really cool.
So, if you're already an Obsidian user, I know the big question that's probably on your mind is how does this new thing stack up against the tools we already have? Specifically, how does it compare to the legendary DataView plugin?
The single biggest difference, and it is a massive one, comes down to accessibility. Basis is just incredibly easy to use. It's all point and click with a beautiful graphical interface. DataView, on the other hand, while it's immensely powerful, forces you to learn an entire query language.
It's basically the difference between building something with Legos versus having to write your own C++ code from scratch. Let's just quickly run through these trade-offs, because they're important. Notice that Bases is incredibly fast and highly interactive. You can edit stuff directly. Why? Because it only looks at your YAML front matter, that metadata at the top of your notes. Data View gets more flexibility by being able to scan the entire body of your notes, but that can come with a performance cost. And crucially, its views are read-only. And of course, you've got Notion, which gives you tons of view types, but it means your data lives on their servers, which for many of us kind of goes against the whole local-first spirit of Obsidian.
Okay, so after all that, we get to the big question. How do you decide if Basis is actually right for you and your workflow?
So who is this for? Well, you should absolutely be using Bases if you value speed, simplicity, and the awesome power to edit metadata for tons of notes all from one single dashboard. If you've ever looked at DataView's code and just felt your eyes glaze over, Bases is going to be your new best friend.
But hey, DataView is not going anywhere. It is still the undisputed king of raw power and flexibility. If your workflow absolutely depends on pulling data from the middle of a sentence or doing really complex groupings and calculations, DataView is still the tool for the job. In fact, I think a lot of power users are going to end up using both, side by side for different tasks. You know, when you zoom out, the introduction of Bases feels like a major evolution for Obsidian. It's really an invitation for all of us to think more deeply about the structure of our own knowledge. It makes you ask a pretty fundamental question. Are we just collecting information? Or are we actually building a personal, interactive system for thinking? The tools to do it are now more powerful and more accessible than ever before. The rest is up to you.